Hello.
That is simply irrational, Lady Theodora. Assimilation into the trade structure would be political and economic suicide. Practically an admission of heresy.
Says the man dressed in peculiar garb, his voice tight with tension, his face, half of which is covered by synth skin, is twisted in a grimace of displeasure and disbelief. Ethelthrad, we believe, is the other heir.
Then suggest an alternative that will satisfy me. I have described the situation. No worse than my seneschal could have done. Make a decision. What will you do with Ion 6, Ethelthrad?
The tall, gray-haired woman pins him with her gaze, her cybernetic eye flashing crimson. We'll survey the room first, get an idea of who is here. Your first impressions of Ethelthrad, who appears to be about 30 years old, is of parchment-like skin stretched over a tightly bundled mass of sinew, implants, and bone. The nervously twitching fingers, the face twisted by a slight tic, and the jerky movements are all signs of some illness or defect that has taken over his physical form. Doesn't sound like he's in the best of health, so presumably we are a better potential heir. In stark contrast to Ethelthrad, Theodora von Valancius' features appear as if they were carved from marble, eternal and indestructible. Head raised high, proud posture, hands clasped casually behind her back. Everything seems to emphasize the difference in status between her and Ethelthrad. Behind the two of them, you see two more men. One is a gray-haired officer of impeccable bearing who is studying the contents of his data slate. The other is a behemoth bristling with holsters and baldricks containing all manner of weapons.
Our second candidate has joined us. Approach and give me your answer.
The dry female voice and the powerful feeling of being watched force you to look at Theodora. The rogue trader is looking straight at you, and her gaze, like herself, is predatory and oppressive. We don't really know the question yet, but I'm willing to give an answer.
Consider this hypothetical situation. Ion 6. A new world on the fringes of the Koronus Expanse. High seismic activity, regular magma eruptions, metamorphic rock deposits, prospects for large-scale mining. The world is populated by natives who worship some heretical underworld spirits that protect those who offer them sacrifices. Flights of fancy, you might say, but attempts to install ore extractors have failed for the second time. The mining crews sent to the planet's surface simply vanished overnight. My question to you is, what would you do with this poisoned treasure?
Interesting question. Your character skills reflect their knowledge and capabilities. Some dialogues automatically initiate passive skill tests. If such a test succeeds, new information will be revealed, or hidden dialogue options will unlock. If your character is traveling with allies, the party member with the highest score in the applicable skill is selected for each given passive skill test. I do like how Owlcat has done this, where skill tests are always done by the highest skill of the party, as opposed to, say, Baldur's Gate 3, where skill tests are performed by whoever is initiating the action. And therefore, you might fail at something that someone else in your party could have succeeded at if they'd been given the opportunity. So that's good here. Looks like these are the skill tests where we've already succeeded at the passive check, so we have these options available to us. So the way skill tests work is, I believe, our skill value gets added to the difficulty. In this case, skill value of 30, difficulty of 90, means we needed to roll under 120, which we succeeded at because 120 is obviously larger than a 100-sided die. Same here, 125 would have been our required check. And so we rolled a 43 on this one and a 9 on this one, which are both less than 120 plus. So we succeeded, and basically we couldn't lose. So those spirits could well be the natives' name for dangerous aliens. I would first verify if that is indeed the case, and if the population of Ion 6 engages in xeno worship. Or There are ways to confirm whether what is happening on Ion 6 is witchcraft or not. It might cost several psykers to do so, but it will give us the answer. Both are good options. I believe I could use my personal ability to ascertain whether there was sorcery on Ion 6, but it would require going down to the surface in person. These reports of spirits certainly sound like evidence of heresy. However, I would put my interest first. No matter what means I would have to use, the riches of Ion 6 would be mine. Ion 6 must be purged for the good of the Imperium. I shall exterminate the heretical beliefs and otherworldly powers that rule the native apostates, or I do not know. Well, obviously 6 is the wrong answer. Huh. I'm inclined to go with the options that we got due to passing a passive check. And being we have more knowledge of the warp, I think I'm going to go with the warp choice of it sounds like witchcraft, so we should send psykers to verify.
Thorough, but presumptuous. It took me a great deal to find one psyker who could serve me well for many years, yet you speak of several.
Theodora smirks. Well, I am a psyker, so how hard can it be?
Sanctioned psykers are rare and valuable instruments of the Golden Throne. Or do you suggest that we use heretics, who are an offense to the God Emperor's light? It would be rather careless of you to utter such profanity in the presence of his faithful servants.
To be fair, rogue traders have the power and authority to do whatever is necessary, which includes having unsanctioned psykers on their crew. So we certainly couldn't authorize using unsanctioned psykers, but the rogue trader could. Edelfrad looks at you with the warmth of a snake. I gave a straight answer to a simple question, which, as I understand it, was more than you could do, Edelfrad. Wow. Them's fighting words. We're both servants of the God Emperor, and Lady Theodora, does it become anyone of our status to engage in petty feuds? I find your tone most disagreeable, Edelfrad. You will kindly alter the manner in which you address me, or else you will live to regret the consequences. Shut your mouth, Edelfrad, before I decide to shut it for you. We don't need to be... We don't know enough about the situation to be starting to be that negative. He's been here longer than us, potentially as a more stable position on this ship. We don't yet know what our role is supposed to be, just that we will hopefully find a place for ourselves here, and then as an heir, that gives us more authority than the average person here. I think I'm going to go with this top answer, though. I gave a straight answer to a simple question, which seems to be more than you could do, Edelthrad.
Insolent, ignorant upstart. How dare you?
I mean, there were no friendly options there, but that seemed the most straightforward answer. The color drains from Edelthrad's face, which distorts his features further.
Edelthrad, I believe I gave you an assignment on this ship. Explain to me then why my senior congregator is still dawdling about the officer's deck, instead of proceeding to the middle decks to commence the inspection of the compartments in his purview.
Theodora's tone renders him silent. I mean, it seemed like you were questioning him about a situation, so then to ask why he's still here seems weird. But okay.
I beg your forgiveness, Lady Theodora. Your presence has such a profound effect on me that I well forgot the time.
Edelfrad bows ceremoniously and takes his leave without sparing you another look.
So, why are you here?
Theodora's gaze follows him as he leaves, then she turns to you. Was it not you who sent for me? There are questions that I wish to have answered. I do not know just yet. I hope you will clarify that. She likes boldness. So I don't think was it you, not you who sent for me, is something she will like. I think we'll just ask our questions and hope that she forgives our impertinence. There are questions that I wish to have answered.
You are direct. I approve.
Good.
But you will have to wait. There is something I want you to understand first.
Okay, so I was right. She does approve of directness.
My name is Theodora von Valancius Massimo of Scaris. I am a rogue trader in the service of the God Emperor of humanity. And my rights and freedoms are vindicated by a most sacred relic. The warrant of trade, kept aboard this very vessel. Mine is the honor to venture into the darkness, beyond the Imperium, and carry humanity's light where powers wicked and heretical reign, and bow death and ruin to us all.
A bold statement, but alright.
It is my decision alone to determine the fate of whatever I find past the bounds of the explored void. Every world I discover, along with all there is to find thereon. Resources, people, riches, and mysteries, is mine by right. I command millions of lives, rule over numerous planets, and possess fortunes that no planetary governor or commander could dream of amassing. And you are one of those with von Valancius blood in their veins and a rightful claim to this inheritance when the hour comes.
So I'm curious how many people, how many heirs there are, people with von Valancius blood. Is it really just her, Edelthrad, and us? Like, has the bloodline died down to that much, or they just intentionally don't spread the bloodline out of fear of too many people having von Valancius blood? Because that seems very risky to have so few people potentially able to carry on this honor of being the rogue trader called upon by the God Emperor. Because if, I don't know what happens if the bloodline dies out and there aren't any more von Valanciuses. Does that rogue trader end? What happens to the ship, the people, the planets that she oversees? I don't know. I'm ready to take on this sacred purpose. It is all too sudden for me. One of, does this mean there are other heirs? We know of Edelthrad. There could potentially be more. But she likes boldness, so I'm ready to take on this sacred purpose.
Oh yes, you would be, wouldn't you? The question is, am I ready to choose you over the rest? You came aboard hours before the warp jump, and have not yet distinguished yourself in any way. As things currently stand, I have doubts that you are suitable for the role of rogue trader.
So we haven't distinguished ourselves in a couple of hours. How would we have distinguished ourselves that quickly? But okay.
Blood right alone is not enough to earn the high honor of becoming the bearer of a warrant of trade. Nonetheless, your abilities and talents may yet prove useful. If not for the role of Lord Captain, then for that of their closest ally. Alas, even those responsibilities can at times be too challenging for those who share your blood. Kunrad Voitvir served me for many years before he made his mistake.
Theodora sighs and looks away pensively for a brief moment. So Kunrad is also of the blood? But he made some mistake that took away his heirship? Potentially? One of, does this mean there are other heirs? Did I hear you correctly? The Master of Whispers is related to you. I'm going to ask this question. One of, are there other heirs? I'm hoping she'll tell us more than, well, yeah, obviously Edelthrad is also an heir, because we know that already. Are there others?
Naturally. Some have yet to arrive on board, but you have had the pleasure of meeting one of them. Edelthrad may be somewhat disconcerted by the scale of the responsibilities that may potentially fall upon his shoulders. However, I have a good feeling about him as a candidate.
Okay, so there are others, some of which haven't even been brought on board yet, that are out there. So it's not that the bloodline has essentially ended. It's good to know. You're satisfied with Edelthrad, then what sense is there in having this conversation? Why are you wasting your time on me? No. No. It's a terrible question. That's just saying that we're effectively authorizing her to give up on us. I assume we want to be Rogue Trader. Or at least still in the candidacy for it. So intentionally trying to besmirch ourselves to some extent is a bad call. Did I hear you correctly? The Master of Whispers is related to you?
His kinship to me is most distant, as is yours. Nonetheless, he does bear the name von Valancius, even if he avoids using it publicly, and as such, strictly speaking, can be considered my heir. That door, however, is closed to him. Voidvir's performance in his current role is satisfactory. Or it used to be, at least.
Okay, so she's having issues with him. Which is probably bad because, again, he's sort of spy, assassin, whatever is needed. You don't want to be having issues with your lead spy. Like, part of me wants to ask this question just to see the answers, but I know it's a bad question to ask. But we're gonna do it anyway, just to see all the options. I don't think there's any lasting, like, negative affiliation points or whatever with Theodora. So, I want to see what she has to say, but this is not a question you would reasonably actually ask.
Impatience. I am rather fond of impatient people. They are not as quick to resign themselves to circumstance and more eager to show initiative. Even if I do choose Edelthrad as my successor, I will still require loyal advisors. The skills and knowledge you acquired in your former life may prove invaluable here, in the Koronus Expanse.
Theodora shakes her head. She actually had a more positive answer to that than I was expecting.
It says in your profile that you bear the brand of sorcery. Albeit sanctioned sorcery that is permitted in the service of the Imperium. I am accustomed to the presence of psykers at my side. More than that, I value their unique abilities highly. Perhaps that is why I am so intrigued by Edelthrad's candidacy. A rogue trader psyker could achieve great things indeed. However, psykers are fragile creatures. And as such, I would rather have a replacement standing ready in the event that something happens to Edelthrad.
Yeah, so as I said earlier, psykers tend to not live long. It's fragile creatures. So having a backup psyker, a backup for the rogue trader if they're a psyker, is valuable. Apparently Edelthrad is also a psyker. So we're both sanctioned psykers? That's unusual.
Moreover, your courage has made you far more famous than you yourself probably realize. True feats of heroism will forever live on in the annals of the Imperium and bring honor to the von Valancius line.
One of your great past deeds has traveled the entire Koronus Expanse and far beyond. I assume that's based upon our triumph that we chose at the start of the game. Thank you for clarifying. May I ask my questions now?
I have some time before the navigator gives the signal to initiate the void ship's translation out of the warp, and my presence is required on the bridge.
The vox affixed to Theodora's attire suddenly comes to life, but all you can hear is unintelligible noise. Theodora winces, shuts off the transmission, and gives you an imperious nod. So, navigators are also mutants. It probably tells us this here. Different than psykers, but a sanctioned mutant, yeah. That are needed to travel through the warp. They're able to use their third eye. They actually have a third eye that allows them to see into the warp safely to navigate. We could ask her about it. Navigator's translation. What are the things you speak of? An incident took place on the officer's deck. Some servitors went berserk and attacked the crew. Where is your ship headed? What are my current responsibilities? Gracious Lord Captain, surely there's some way to prove myself a worthy heir. Or no more questions. Presumably we get to ask all of these, so I shall do so. Tell me about navigators in translation. What are these things you speak of?
Sometimes I forget that people without direct access to a ship's bridge may not know the first thing about how a void ship travels between the stars.
Theodora shakes her head.
Vessels such as this one are capable of leaving real space and traversing into the warp, an otherworldly dimension of cruel and unthinkable forces. By entering it under the protection of the Geller field, we shorten the route to our destination, crossing distances that would require hundreds of years in a matter of weeks instead, sometimes in days or even hours. That is how humanity spread across the galaxy. That is how we were able to build the Imperium, which spans millions of stars.
Although she's conveniently forgetting to mention that sometimes ships get lost in the warp, and then spend insane amounts of time stuck in the warp before they eventually find their way back out again. An incident took place on the officer's deck. Some servitors went berserk and attacked the crew.
Is that so? Perhaps the technomats were careless during maintenance. Or it could be the warp playing tricks on us in spite of the Geller field. Or perhaps there is something to all the stories about the ship being possessed after all.
Theodora laughs nonchalantly. Hopefully none of these, like the Geller field having issues is a problem. Technomats being careless during maintenance, I guess, is the best option because you can get better technomats or force them to do better maintenance. There's not anything actually wrong.
Lady Theodora, for the God Emperor's sake, surely you do not intend to start repeating idle rumors spread about by uneducated riffraff.
Okay, this is the first time we've seen his portrait. Abelard. The gray-haired officer gives the rogue trader a look of cautious disapproval.
Enough, Abelard. Such hearsay amuses me. Theodora eagerly retells me everything she learns from the whispers of her unseen advisors. This ship is thousands of years old. It has enough hidden nooks, malfunctioning cogitators, and unused compartments to make ignorant folks speak of specters dwelling inside the bulkheads and plotting against those who yet live.
She turns to you. We don't know of Adira yet. One of her advisors, apparently. Where's your ship headed?
The Rykad system, the domain of rogue trader Winterscale, one of my peers, and rivals. Besides me, 2 other rogue traders exist in the Koronus Expanse, and each of them possesses resources comparable to mine. Perhaps you will one day assist House von Valancius in surpassing both of them in affluence and splendor.
Peers and rivals. So we'll want to keep an eye out for Rogue Trader Winterscale, whoever they are, but also the idea that we are rogue traders by right of the God Emperor for the betterment of the Imperium. You would think that we would work together to help the Imperium, but the fact that there's rivals means that to some extent we are not working together and we are putting ourselves first. Interesting. Just trying to get the dynamic of exactly how this all plays out in my head.
I set the course for Rykad on the demand for a very specific reason. Perhaps I shall yet apprise you of the purpose for this voyage, but now is not the time.
Theodora grimaces. She gives you a stern look, then shrugs. On the demand, someone was able to make a demand of a rogue trader. That is interesting. There are very few people with the authority to demand anything of a rogue trader. What are my current responsibilities?
Observe, learn, absorb. It will take time for you to find your bearings aboard this vessel and in your new position. Eventually, I will find a post that suits you as I did for Ethelthrad. Until that time comes, consider yourself my aide.
Seems fine. Gracious Lord Captain, surely there are ways I can prove myself a worthy heir. Ugh. That feels so... I don't know. Again, when she wants us to be bold, to be like, oh, can I please serve you in some way? It just feels wrong. We're gonna ask it, but I'm guessing it's not the bold sort of answer or the bold statement she's looking for.
You can start by not asking questions
Yeah.
of this sort. I have no need for sycophants. I will draw my conclusions when an opportunity to prove yourself arises. As for when you will be granted that opportunity, only the God Emperor knows.
Yeah, I was not expecting that to turn out well. She'll figure out a role for us in time. I have no more questions.
In that case, I shall head to... Disturbances reported on the adjacent decks. Seneschal, if the need arises, protect the new blood. It is possible that the chance to prove your worth may present itself sooner than you may have anticipated.
Cool. Theodora's Vox awakens once more. This time you pick up shouting. The Lord Captain freezes, listening to the Voxcast, then nods and draws her weapon. And then she glances at you. Interesting that the Seneschal is being asked to protect us. Presumably we are the new blood. Not to protect her. Although I assume he would still protect her. But his orders are specifically to protect us. These are not servitors, so mutiny. All combatants act in turns, and their order is determined by the initiative roll. The order of turns is displayed on the left side of the screen from bottom to top. The characters at the very bottom go first, and then the one above them, and so on. Alright, we will start the battle.
I can handle this.
My place is at the fore. One fewer target.
Okay, you are cool.
Reduced to dust.
He killed 3 people in a single turn.
Stay vigilant.
Huh.
Such is the will of chaos.
Well, my character is not going to live up to these people's awesome skill. Cover. Use cover to avoid enemy attacks. Cover that a character can hide behind are marked with a shield, or a shield with a skull. When standing close to them, the character will automatically take up an advantageous position. In this case, the chance that an enemy's attacks will hit the cover and not the character behind them increases. The character will not receive a bonus if attacked from a side not protected from their current cover. What kind of bonus does it give? We don't know. Like, we know that it gives cover. Full cover and half cover, presumably. But I wish I knew exactly what the values of the cover are. But yes, go get into cover. And then we can take a shot. 90% chance to do 10 to 16 damage. We're going to actually kill someone. Probably.
Suits my purposes. Nothing of value.
Haha. How about that?
Nothing I can't do.
We'll do run and gun. Critical hits. Your character just landed a critical hit. That deals increased damage equal to the character's critical damage stat. Character's critical damage is 150% of their normal damage by default. However, certain talents, effects, and abilities can increase it. Certain weapons have their own critical damage stat, which is added to the character's total stat value during the attack. She also gave us an ability, Kill Them, plus 50 ballistic skill until the end of combat. So part of why we did so well is that she gave us a bonus. And then we killed someone, so we got a stack of Never Stop Shooting. Okay. So if we shot, we would again have a 90% chance to hit to do 7 to 11. Or if I chose to use this, 6 to 10. We'll use a shot because 90% is still pretty likely. And this will do more damage.
All too easy.
Oh. 90% and you dodged anyway? Your character has just missed. To increase the hit chance, equip your character with a decent weapon and place them on a vantage point. Abilities and talents that improve the weapon skill characteristic will help you hit more often in close combat. For improved marksmanship, learn talents that increase the perception and ballistic skill characteristics. So perception does help our shot. It helps, again, remember now that we read the thing, it helps reduce their dodge. It doesn't help with our shot. Got it. So, can we see what our results were? So we rolled 71 out of 95, which meant that we hit, but then they had a dodge percent of 5% where they rolled a 5, so they dodged. So they had a 5% chance of dodging and pulled it off. That sucks. Alright. So it wasn't that we didn't roll well enough to hit them. We rolled well enough to hit. They just dodged it.
Pain and duty go hand in hand. Oh, my ears are ringing.
Well, Abelard's getting hit pretty hard.
I took care of this one. For the glory of the Imperium! Out of my way! Reduced to dust.
Your character has received a temporary positive effect from an ally. Such effects enhance your character's capabilities in combat in some way. To learn more about the effect you have gained, have your cursor over the effects icon next to your character's portrait. I'm guessing you're talking about kill them, because I think that's the only thing I've received from others. Alright. Enemy-wise, we just have these two left, so I'm going to move up into half cover. That kind of sucks, but we're going to do it anyway.
Tactics are flawless.
What are my chances to hit? Terrible. We can't even hit. That's too far away. Can I ignite? Nope. Then I guess we'll just end our turn. They're too far away.
Don't touch me.
Not too far for her.
Weapon at the ready. I took care of this one.
The various attacks look super cool. Like the Melta, and I think hers is Plasma. They did a good job of the art style.
Take a team with you and clear a path to the transport line. Do not let a single whoreson survive.
Theodora waves her hand in a commanding gesture.
Didn't bat an eye when that scum burst onto the deck, huh? Not bad. I have seen many an officer who panicked at the sight of combat on the upper decks. The false sense of security offered by their position makes them that much more vulnerable to the harsh realities of warp travel.
The rogue trader turns her eyes to you, and then she looks at the box in her hand. All you can hear is lifeless static. What is happening?
From what we have seen, I can speculate that we are dealing with some variety of madness induced by warp travel. Such episodes are not uncommon among voidsmen who have found themselves outside the boundaries of real space, though such episodes seldom spill onto other decks.
The Seneschal is astonishingly calm for someone who just survived a sudden attack. So he's thinking it's madness from warp travel, not mutiny. That doesn't speak well for warp travel. Again, the Gellerfield's supposed to protect us from that.
The casters are not working, or have been sabotaged. Either the warp is toying with us, or someone went to great lengths to cut the ship's communications. I will need a direct channel to the engine seer prime before I can get a sense of what we are up against. Whatever it may be, keep your weapons at the ready. I imagine it will be some time before we no longer need them.
Theodora clicks her Vox a few times. How could there be armed people in the ranks of the crew who would dare attack the Lord Captain? The incident with the rampaging servitors may be connected to what's transpiring now, or what are your orders? The incident with the servitors would be connected to what's happening.
Possibly. Quite likely. We will investigate at a later time. Right now, we need to isolate the affected compartments and try to assess the situation.
Theodora winces and flicks the switch on her Vox a few times. How could there be armed people in the ranks of the crew who would dare attack the Lord Captain?
Trust me, this is hardly surprising for a crew of thousands. The lower decks are a fertile environment for discontent and heresy, no matter how one tries to incinerate any seed before it can take root. All it takes is a hint of warp influence to cloud the minds of normally obedient cattle.
The seneschal gives you a gloomy look, referring to the people, to the crew, as cattle. Interesting choice.
Sporadic riots on the lower decks never reach these compartments. No, the tumults of the rabble are always contained within their own territory. This is too well organized. It is spreading too rapidly.
Theodora's anger causes the seneschal to shrink slightly. Yeah, the lower decks should be far enough away from here that it shouldn't spill up to here. Something else is likely going on. What are your orders?
Mort has gone on ahead to clear a path for us. If you want to make yourself useful, go after him and see if the arch-militant requires aid. And be quick about it.
She breaks eye contact with you. Alright.
Victory awaits!
Well, we can look around. The massive metal structure never stops moving for a moment. Light bounces off the orbits and figures representing celestial bodies. I'm concerned about the disrupted communication with the navigator's sanctum. We should have already approached the translation point and proceeded to real space. Once we are done with the riot, I want to have a look at the Logisticar's reports. We need to understand what happened on the decks during the warp jump and the preparations preceding it. Nothing in there.
I'll lay claim to the stars.
Anything else to check out while we're here? Okay, we've got more combat going on. I have a tool that will allow me to check the status of the distant compartments that are out of Vox contact, but we have to wait for Mort's results first. Well, we want to make sure we don't accidentally get shot. I guess we're supposed to go this way. The heretic's body is riddled with holes. An improvised single-shot gun lies smoking in his hands. We saw you before. You had a name. The accursed traitor shot him at point-blank range. The Master-at-Arms is not looking good.
Follow my lead.
Hey, Mort.
Thank Providence you are alive and well.
Kunrad Votvir lets out a sigh of relief upon seeing you.
Always on time, eh, Kunrad? The moment we finish chasing the riffraff around the deck, you show up. Always just after the fighting's done. You could set your chrono by it.
Interesting. So Kunrad shows up after the fighting's done. Apparently that's a common trait. And we also know that Lady Theodora has issues with Kunrad.
Mort, hold yourself together.
Kunrad pointedly looks away from the arch-militant to you.
What, did the Lord Captain send you to chivvy us along? We're all done here. I'll report right away.
The arch-militant looks back at you. Mort pulls his box from his belt and hurriedly reports on the situation.
The Vox Master is not responding. Armed assailants have stormed the officer's deck, and my arch-militant just destroyed several more heretics on the way here. Is this a severe case of warp madness? Have some of my crew lost their minds and forgotten who they are and whom they serve? Report!
I have not yet received word from the Engineerium regarding any Geller field failures, but communications were already unstable half an hour ago, and now they have ceased altogether. Whatever the cause may be, the consequences are spreading fast. I am receiving scattered reports from the middle decks, and the only voxcasts from the lower bays are one-way heretical gibberish. That the madmen have already reached the officer's deck suggests that this outrage was planned in advance. Perhaps this is an organized mutiny.
Both of your pauses. So that's what I was thinking, is some organized mutiny rather than madness caused by a Geller field failure. But we don't know yet. Mutiny, but who would attempt mutiny here in the warp? Mutiny against the Emperor's anointed, execute the traitors, every last one of them. We must provide immediate assistance to those still on the middle decks. Perhaps then we might stop this wave from spreading, or if this is indeed a severe case of warp madness, then the situation is dire. No, mutiny against the Emperor's anointed, execute the traitors, every last one of them.
First, we have to confirm that the bridge and the navigator's sanctum are secure. And I have the means to do both things at once.
Her expression changes and her eyes flash ominously.
Edelthrad, where is he? I must know if he is unharmed. A psyker aboard a ship that is potentially being assailed by the warp could pose a greater threat to himself and others than a whole army of madmen with improvised weapons.
Theodora looks at Votvir. I mean, we are also a psyker aboard this ship.
I tried to locate him, but the last thing known about his movements is that he arrived on transitional deck 18.
Blast it! Master of Whispers, find Edelthrad immediately. Seneschal, locate Tlas and the Sister of Battle. Both are to remain at my side. Arch-militant, with me. I must go to my study. And it appears we might encounter heretics along the way.
Theodora glances at you thoughtfully. I don't think I've heard the name Tlas yet. Sisters of Battle are awesome. I don't know what one's doing aboard this ship, but they are definitely able to help out in situations just like this. So convenient.
If I may, Lord Captain, Transitional Deck 18 is at the heart of the disturbance, and if our goal is to bring Edelthrad back, I could use some support. After all, I'm not as adept at directly confronting enemies of the House as the esteemed Arch-Militant, and taking into consideration Edelthrad's psyker powers.
Woodvier's voice is soft and cautious. I mean, yeah, if you're not a combat person, potentially trying to get additional help makes sense.
Then it's settled. Find Edelthrad and bring him here. In whatever state you find him. This elevator leads to restricted compartments such as my personal chambers and the bridge. Do not let me down. I require you both.
She points at the massive doors. In whatever state, what does that mean? I hear and obey. I shall do everything in my power, or I cannot promise that I won't lose our dearest heir somewhere along the way. In whatever state, what does that mean?
We're in the war. Considering the attack, there could be a disruption in the Geller field and the infiltration of malevolent forces onto the decks. Psykers can react to such things in the most unpredictable ways.
So you're planning to send a second psyker down? Seems like a odd choice. Grunad coughs. Is he suddenly sick?
Enough! Master of Whispers, you must not allow my heir to turn into a mindless mutant and to perish under Enforcer fire. Do whatever it takes to bring Edelthrad back to me.
Alright, I hear and obey, Lord Captain.
Then move out! Mort, come.
Theodora waves a hand impatiently. Looks like we get to go find Edelthrad. We're gonna have an epic psyker battle.
Are you ready to head to 18? It is a long walk, and you do not even have proper gear.
Voltveer gives you a nod. Yeah, all we have is a single-shot pistol. Better than nothing, but not amazing. I shall make do lead the way. I have a proposition. Since I'm the more important person here, you can go in the front to shield me from potential threats. Wow. You'd better not fail me. The Lord Captain made it clear that relying on you is fraught with risk. Both of those statements, just straight up telling him to his face that he is not someone to be trusted. No, just, I'll make do, lead the way.
Of course you will. Lady Theodora would never have someone she couldn't rely on as one of her heirs. But that is no longer relevant.
He rummages in his pocket for something. Why is it not relevant? With a pop and a sharp crackle, something hits you in the abdomen, and you're consumed by unbearable gut-wrenching pain. Ah, it's no longer relevant because you are the mutineer. Got it. That looked like a blow to the head, not a blow to the abdomen. I promised you a special destiny, Ignatius. It is time to fulfill it.